The elevator jolted slightly, a low metallic groan echoing through its tight shaft. Daniel pressed the button for the 10th time, the fluorescent light flickering above his head. He hated elevators. Well, most people hated them, but for Daniel, a 20-year-old office junior, this claustrophobic box felt like a sardine can from the depths of hell. And, of course, today of all days, it had to trap him with someone who made the fluorescent walls feel even smaller. Daniel, a voice, calm and authoritative, broke the tense silence. He turned and froze. There she was, Miranda Blake, the company's CEO and office enigma, standing 3 feet away, arms crossed, perfectly composed. Or at least trying to be. Her dark hair fell in soft waves over her shoulders, framing a face that looked as if it belonged on a magazine cover, not staring back at a 20-year-old intern who still struggled to find his voice in board meetings. She was wearing one of her signature sharp business suits, and Daniel couldn't help noticing how the tailored fabric hugged her figure, highlighting curves he felt guilty noticing but couldn't help. Hi, Ms. Blake," he stammered, voice betraying a tremor he blamed entirely on the elevator's stifling air. "Miranda," she corrected gently, though her tone was strained. She pressed a hand to the wall, closing her eyes for a moment. "I hate elevators." Confession was like a crack in the polished armor she always carried around the office, and Daniel's heart thumped with an odd, anxious excitement. The mighty CEO had a vulnerability, and it was as if the universe had gifted him a front-row seat. The elevator lurched again, and both of them instinctively grabbed the rail. Daniel's hand brushed hers, briefly, almost accidentally, but the touch lingered in his mind far longer than it should have. Miranda's eyes snapped open, meeting his, and for a fraction of a second he thought he saw surprise. Then it melted into something softer, a flicker of recognition that the situation was delicate, personal, intimate. "Looks like we're stuck," she said finally, voice tighter than usual. Her lips pressed into a thin line, but her dark brown eyes betrayed worry. He noticed the faint tremor in her hands as she adjusted her blazer. She hated this as much as he did, but she had decades of poise and experience making it look like control. Now, none of that worked. She was vulnerable, and Daniel couldn't stop thinking about how rare that was. Daniel swallowed, trying to calm his sudden nervousness. I can call maintenance. Maybe they'll get us out in a few minutes." He fumbled for his phone, only to realize the reception was gone. Course it was. Course it had to be him trapped in a vertical tin can with the CEO. He gave a small, awkward laugh. "Well, I guess we're going to have to wait it out." Miranda exhaled, a slow, deliberate breath that seemed to release some tension, though her body language stiffened again. "Great. Just what I needed today." "My whole schedule," she cut herself off with a frustrated sigh, running a hand through her hair. "I can't believe this is happening." "Yeah," Daniel said softly. He wanted to say something clever, reassuring, funny, but all he could think about was the soft rise and fall of her chest, the warm brown eyes studying him now with a mix of irritation and, he dared to hope, curiosity. "It's, not ideal." She gave him a half-smile, the kind that didn't quite reach her eyes. Daniel felt his stomach twist in anticipation. Her mask of professionalism was slipping, and it was intoxicating. "No, it's not," she admitted. Then, more softly, almost to herself, "I don't like closed spaces." Daniel nodded, heart thudding. "Claustrophobic?" "Yes." She admitted it outright, leaning back against the wall. She pulled her knees up slightly, as if trying to make herself smaller. "I've managed to avoid elevators most of my life, but sometimes, well, sometimes you can't." He wanted to say something reassuring, but he realized he didn't know what reassurance sounded like in this context. "It's okay. I mean, we'll get out. Maintenance always comes eventually, right?" Miranda laughed softly, a short, almost brittle sound. "You make it sound easy." She shook her head and looked at him with that piercing CEO gaze that somehow made him feel simultaneously seen and painfully exposed. "I suppose it's worse with someone else here. Or better, maybe." She hesitated, then quickly corrected herself. I mean, less lonely. It's odd. I don't usually, she stopped abruptly, her words hanging in the air. Daniel felt his pulse spike. Yeah, he said, voice hoarse. I don't usually either. The silence stretched, charged and heavy. Daniel couldn't look away from her face. There was something magnetic in the way her lips pressed together, in the tension in her shoulders, in the subtle quiver of her fingers. And then, suddenly, the elevator jolted again, more violently this time, and Miranda let out a soft gasp, grabbing Daniel's arm for balance. Oh, sorry, she said, voice breathless. Her eyes widened, and she seemed suddenly very small, very real. Daniel felt the electricity of the moment, their proximity, the hum of shared panic. His hand lingered near hers, hesitant, almost daring to brush against her again. It's fine, he whispered. No worries. I've got you. Her eyes softened, and for a moment she seemed to consider trusting him. You're very calm, she said, voice low. Daniel chuckled nervously. I have to be. Otherwise, I'd probably be panicking too much. He swallowed, suddenly aware of how close they were. How easy it would be to reach out to bridge that tiny gap between them. He noticed her scent then, a subtle mix of floral and something earthy, something distinctly Miranda. His stomach fluttered. We'll get out, he added, more firmly this time, as if saying it could make it true. Miranda's gaze held his, lingering longer than professional decorum allowed. You're brave, she said softly. Or foolish. Probably both. Maybe both, he admitted. There was a pause, a charged, suspended moment in which the air itself seemed to hold its breath. He wanted to reach out, to touch her hand, to do something, anything to anchor this strange, unexpected connection. But he hesitated, unsure if he was overstepping. Then, to his surprise, she leaned slightly closer. I don't usually do this, she admitted quietly. Being close to someone. Not in a personal way. But now it feels different. Her gaze softened, vulnerability breaking through the corporate shield. I'm not sure why I'm telling you this. Daniel's chest tightened. Maybe because we're stuck here, he said softly, and normal rules don't really apply right now. She looked at him, her lips parting slightly, and for a heartbeat the world outside the elevator ceased to exist. The hum of the lights, the distant clank of cables, the tension, they all melted into a single electric instant. He wanted to lean closer, to see if she would let him. To see if she felt the same thing he did, this impossible pull toward her. Daniel, she whispered, barely audible, yet somehow intimate in a way that made his heart pound. Yes, he asked, his own voice trembling slightly. He could feel every beat of his own pulse, the warmth of her presence so close, the subtle perfume drawing him in. She swallowed, hesitating, then said, I don't usually. I shouldn't, but her words trailed off, leaving the moment suspended, heavy with unspoken longing. Daniel moved just a fraction closer, careful, respectful, and yet daring. It's okay, he whispered. Whatever it is, it's okay. She closed her eyes briefly, leaning just slightly toward him, and he caught the faintest scent of her hair brushing against his cheek. You're unexpected, she said, voice barely above a breath. In every way. He smiled, shy and nervous, but genuine. And you're everything I didn't expect either. They sat there, inches apart, caught in the strange gravity of each other's presence, the elevator walls pressing in, the world outside momentarily irrelevant. Daniel could feel her breath, soft and warm, could see the subtle flutter of her eyelashes as she blinked nervously. He wanted to reach for her hand, to reassure her, to anchor this moment, but he paused, letting her lead. Letting her choice guide the next step. Finally, she opened her eyes and looked at him directly, no shields, no pretense. I'm glad you're here, she admitted. Even if for all the wrong reasons. He felt his chest tighten. Me too, he said simply. Me too. The elevator jolted again, softer this time, and Daniel instinctively reached out, brushing his hand lightly against hers. She didn't pull away. Instead, she let it linger, a quiet acknowledgement, a silent agreement. In the stifling, flickering, locked elevator, time seemed to slow, bend, and stretch. But for once, hierarchy, professionalism, and everything that kept them apart in the office mattered less than the simple human connection of shared vulnerability. And in that small, suspended world, Daniel realized something he hadn't before. Sometimes the most unlikely moments, the strangest circumstances, could reveal truths that no boardroom or conference call ever could. Miranda looked at him again, this time with a half-smile, half-sigh, a mixture of exasperation and wonder. "You're really brave," she said softly. "Or incredibly reckless." "Maybe both," Daniel echoed, mirroring her tone, his heart hammering. He realized he didn't care about the rules, the office politics, the age difference, or anything else. All he cared about was the warmth of her presence, the intimacy of shared fear, the way vulnerability could become attraction. And for the next few minutes, stuck in that cramped, flickering elevator, Daniel and Miranda found themselves not as CEO and intern, not as age or hierarchy, but as two human beings navigating a moment that was theirs alone, caught in the suspended gravity of unexpected closeness and silent, thrilling connection. Time passed slowly, measured by breaths and heartbeats. And when the elevator finally jolted, signaling the arrival of rescue, they were both reluctant to move apart. But the moment, though fleeting, had changed something irrevocably. Daniel felt it. Miranda felt it. In the strangest, smallest, most claustrophobic place, a spark had ignited. And both of them knew office life would never be the same.